Are you thinking of moving to Idaho? We're going to do a comparison of Boise and Coeur d'Alene. Let's go.
We can go on, baby, we can go on. We can go on tonight. Whatever you want, yeah, whatever you want. Whatever you want tonight.
Hey guys, welcome back to the North Idaho Lindsay YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about Boise, Idaho versus Coeur d'Alene. Now, a lot of people who are moving to Idaho come and say, well, maybe we go to Boise, but I've also heard Coeur d'Alene's beautiful and they want to check out both of them. So I get a lot of clients who are kind of trying to decide where they're going to end up, and they visit both places, they look at houses in both places, they're looking at the schools and the activities and the amenities. So we're going to break it down here today, the differences between Boise and Coeur d'Alene. Now, Boise is the largest metropolitan area in the state of Idaho. I grew up in Boise, so I'm gonna tell you I spent, up until high school and slightly after college, I spent time in Boise. Now, I've lived up here in Coeur d'Alene for the latter half of my life here, so I have a really good perspective on the comparison between the two. So where I will start out is absolutely size. Boise is bigger than I'm pretty sure Spokane is. And it's the largest metropolitan area here in the state. Between Boise and Meridian and Eagle and Nampa and Caldwell and Kuna, that Treasure Valley area, there's 750,000, if not more, people down there. So you've also got, traffic, and you've also got, an elevated level of crime, I could say, even though I also want you to know that Boise is incredibly safe. But in comparison, there's definitely more activity down there, and more activity leads to, more crime, more crashes, more, thefts, more drugs, things like that. And all those things exist everywhere you go. And again, I don't want to say that that's all happening down there, but you see a lot less of that up here in North Idaho and Coeur d'Alene. So big difference there, and a lot of that's driven by size. So traffic is another thing. I, again, being from Boise and having lived there in the 80s and the early 90s, traffic was not as insane as it is today in Boise. It is getting a little congested up here in North Idaho, but it is still nothing like you see in Boise. So if you're coming from an area where you're sitting in traffic for an hour to and from work or more, you despise traffic, don't go to Boise. Come up here to North Idaho. Next thing, I guess I would kind of say the big difference again too between the two areas is the weather and the seasons. So Boise is high desert climate, I guess you could call that. And what that means is it gets really hot in the summertime, and they have mild winters, but it's high desert. So you've got these big mountains down there, and you've got a ski resort called Boise Basin right outside of town. But in terms of seasons, you get all 4 seasons. You get the spring, you get the fall, you have a very mild winter. It does get a little chilly down there, and you do get skiffs of snow every once in a while too, but it's much milder in the winter down there. Now, North Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, what we experience is amazing summers. We're not as hot as Boise. We're usually running about 10 degrees cooler up here. So in the summertime, instead of 110 degrees or 115 degrees, half of the days of July and August, you are seeing maybe 85 degrees, and maybe a couple of days in August, which bump up into the 90s, and maybe a day or two during the height of the summer where we might hit 100, but it's very rare. One thing that I will also say that you see in North Idaho that you don't see in the Boise area is it's a little more humid up here. We just have so many bodies of water and so many trees that, it does get, into the 90s, and it can feel hotter than 90. It's just the humidity around the lake. Now, Boise is a very dry, arid climate, so they have dry heat down there, kind of like you would find in Arizona or like Palm Desert, Palm Springs. I personally love that. I'm a dry heat person. I love it. But for some people, it's too hot. And also, maybe you want winter. You're not going to get a lot of winter activities in the Boise area, but you will up here in Coeur d'Alene. Okay, next thing I would say is the schools, differences between Boise and Coeur d'Alene. A lot of people, obviously, especially families, a lot of people are really concerned about what school their kids go to. One thing I will tell you, there is a lot more school choice and a lot more options down in Boise. Just the nature of the size and the density of the population and the needs of the population, you're gonna see a lot more educational opportunities in Boise, a lot more school districts in the southern Idaho, Boise area as well. And they've got a number of higher education institutes. You've got Boise High. Go Boise High, go Braves. That was my alma mater. But you've got Boise State down there, and everyone knows about Boise State and the Smurf turf. They're a huge school, nationally recognized. Obviously, we know about their football team. But they've also got a Concordia Law School down there. They've got all sorts of extensions for the University of Idaho and other schools there as well. So the higher education scene in southern Idaho is going to be a little bit higher caliber. What we've got up here is extensions of the University of Idaho, Boise State, and Lewis and Clark, and we've got North Idaho College. It's a much smaller campus, and they do not offer the breadth of degrees that you can find at other universities around the state. So the next thing I want to talk about, the difference between the two, are the recreational opportunities. There are a lot more diverse opportunities up here in North Idaho than you get in southern Idaho in the Boise area. Outside of Boise, there is a reservoir, and then outside the Nampa area, Caldwell area, there is a lake there too, but they're not the size and the scope that you see up here in Coeur d'Alene. There is a river that you can float. I know we've got the river up here, the Coeur d'Alene River, that we also float, and it provides a lot of great fishing opportunities. The one thing I think that we trump in terms of Coeur d'Alene versus Boise, we trump Boise in terms of skiing opportunities, winter recreation, and in camping and hiking. But also just the scenicness of North Idaho versus Southern Idaho. That's also a point there. When I moved up here, one of the things that when I travel and I come back home, it is so green up here. It's just a blanket of evergreens and pines on the mountains, and when they get snow-capped or against a blue sky on a summer day, I mean, there's just so much color up here. One thing I will say about southern Idaho, again, being high desert, it's a little bit more brown down there. So you're not gonna see the green rolling mountains. You're gonna see, some rockier, more dirt-like terrain. So another kind of difference I would say that's worth pointing out is the politics, the difference in political positions between the two areas. Now, Boise is the capital of Idaho, and it is the highest density area in the state of Idaho as well. I believe Coeur d'Alene is the third largest city in Idaho, behind Idaho Falls as well. I could be wrong about that, but I'm almost positive about that. The politics in southern Idaho tends to be a little bit more liberal. You have, people that have come in from, bigger cities, and they're attracted to that metropolitan area, so you get that a little bit more of a liberal lean in there. Now, not to mistake it with the fact that Idaho in general around the state has been very red over the last couple of decades, but there is a blue streak that you see in southern Idaho that you don't see up here in North Idaho. In Coeur d'Alene, it's very red. It's very blue collar. It's very like agricultural and mining and timber up here, so they tend to definitely have more of a conservative mindset up here in Coeur d'Alene than you see in Boise. So then the next thing I would kind of touch on is kind of housing. Both places are booming. Both places are seeing massive amounts of appreciation. Both places get recognized perennially and frequently as, fastest growing, most desirable, highest appreciation housing communities in the nation. So we're kind of, I would say, pretty equal on housing affordability. Boise was kind of outweighing us, but Coeur d'Alene in North Idaho, we've seen a massive amount of appreciation too. So you do see affordability issues with certain subsets of the population, but we're both growing. We're both growing a lot and at a pace that's really hard to swallow sometimes. So we're kind of equal, I would say, on those two fields, but obviously Boise is such a larger area that you're gonna have more neighborhoods, different builders, different styles of homes, more developments. It's just the scale of building and construction and housing down there is larger than it is here. But in terms of affordability, I think we're kind of both similar in that we're seeing a lot of appreciation, and it's making it tough for certain sections of our population. And kind of the last, I think, but not least thing that I want to mention about Boise versus Coeur d'Alene is just the vibe, I guess you could say. Again, Boise, obviously, having 7 times the population, 6 times the population that we do up here in North Idaho, it is a big town. It's got the urban feel. It's got the high-rise condos and the high-rise, skyscrapers with businesses, and it's a big economic driver. You've got the Capitol down there. It's a huge legislative community down there. It's hopping down there. Tons of restaurants. That's one thing I think that Boise has us, obviously, is the options on restaurants and food and entertainment. We don't get that here in North Idaho, but what we do get in return for the lack of population and the lack of activity is this pace of life that I think identifies, that a lot of people identify with, in that it's calm and quiet and it feels safe. You aren't necessarily locking your doors and being paranoid, or there's not a lot of break-ins and crime, and it's just a lot quieter up here and clean. Now, one thing I will give Idaho credit for in general is you can go pretty much anywhere in this state and everything seems really clean. And the quality of life in general in Idaho is amazing. But one thing I will say is that just Boise being the size that it is, there's some pros and cons to that. North Idaho being a little bit smaller, Coeur d'Alene specifically, pros and cons to that. So hopefully this dialogue gave you some things to think about when you're considering, moving to Idaho and you're thinking, oh, we've got Boise, we've got Coeur d'Alene. These are the things that you should know that are the difference between the two. So if you have any comments or anything you'd like to know furthering this discussion, or if you've got things that that are different between Boise and Coeur d'Alene, make sure to drop those in the comments. I love to hear other people's perspectives. I love to hear other people's opinions about things. So we're excited to engage with you guys. Again, if you're enjoying this content, go ahead and like and subscribe. You can reach me at the email below. You can text me at the phone number below. Happy to answer any questions that you have about the differences between the two, and maybe even relocating here. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found some things, valuable pieces of information, and we'll be here again weekly with videos talking about North Idaho, living in Idaho, relocating to Idaho, and just becoming an Idahoan. So hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you guys next time.